Hello, everyone. This is Gerald Celente. And again, we're honored on this May 18th, 2022, to have with us Judge Andrew Napolitano. And as I say, nobody says what Judge Andrew Napolitano says with the judicial authority that he has, the background that he has, where he's been and what he knows. And we're in a very critical time of our lives right now with our Constitution, our Bill of Rights ripped up to shreds, and more draconian mandates being imposed upon us, and the loss of our freedom, our peace, and our justice. Thank you so much for being here today, Judge Napolitano. And
It's a
I want
pleasure.
to
It's a pleasure to be with you, Gerald, no matter what we're talking about.
thank you. You know, they had this maniac guy over there up in Buffalo, New York, and that committed this tragedy this past Saturday. And you write about it's blaming the Constitution. Within hours of the tragic killing, you write, of 10 Americans, 9 black and 1 white, in a Buffalo supermarket by a deranged white racist last week, the governor of New York began calling for infringements upon personal liberty. First, she argued that social media platforms were somehow liable for these killings since they provided a platform from which the killer could reinforce his hatreds on which he could manifest them. Then she argued that hate speech and incendiary speech should be prosecuted. Finally, she attacked the U.S. Supreme Court, which is about to rule on a challenge to New York's restrictive concealed carry laws. She said twice that, quote, New York is ready for you. You go on to say it is unclear just what she meant, but the implication was that she'd find a way around whatever the court rules.
So just think about this. It's a tragedy, a mass killing by a kid who had been arrested by the police and confined in a mental facility for 2.5 days, and still under New York law was legally allowed to buy the gun. He legally owned this gun. She attacks the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and then she attacks the Second Amendment. Does she really think that a person who's willing to commit mass murder is going to comply with gun laws? No, she's attacking the liberty of the rest of us. Hate speech is protected. Incendiary speech is protected. The right to keep and bear arms is not protected in New York. If people in that supermarket had been armed and knew how to use their weapons, he would have been stopped. So she's just in the wrong direction. Why does government attack freedom? Because government hates freedom. Because government is the opposite of freedom. Because government is the negation of freedom.
Government hates freedom. What'd you say?
Government is the opposite of freedom. Government is the negation of freedom.
Government is the opposite and the negation.
Freedom, and government is the negation of freedom.
You nailed it. You nailed it 100%.
Our natural right. We are naturally free. Government only exists by taking freedom away from us. It also exists by taking assets away from us.
Yeah. Now, boy, you just summed up everything. That's exactly what they do. The government hates freedom. When you see a crazy person walking down the street, or you see one on the street, they're out of their mind they're crazy. These people are lunatics too. They just hide it better.
Yes.
They are mentally deranged people. They are arrogant sociopaths, psychopaths, and pathological liars. They're brilliant at hiding their mental illness.
The very weapon that she condemned this crazy person for owning and using is used and possessed by the bodyguards that work for the state and surround her 24/7.
So that's fine. They're better than we are. We're only plantation workers of Slavelandia. so we don't count. You go on, again, you mentioned it, but I want to make this really clear. The critical error is a mistaken belief that someone willing to commit mass murder will somehow comply with gun regulations.
You can't even say this with a straight face. It's so absurd. But this is the argument that the gun crowd makes. This is the argument that Joe Biden made when he was in Buffalo yesterday. I don't blame him for going, but this is the argument he made yesterday. He and she, Governor Hochul, both attacked social media. Do they really want the government to be in the business of deciding what social media can post and what people can read? If that's the case, then they should cut a hole in their copy of the Constitution where the First Amendment is, because the First Amendment stands for the proposition the government has no role in the marketplace of ideas.
Yeah, they control us. So, I mean, it's just, beyond the, they talk about this guy being a killer and deranged, and about his hate speech. And how about the hate speech of, let's hate Saddam Hussein, who has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al Qaeda, and it's a total lie. Is that hate speech? How about the hate speech from the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, Barack Obama? Assad has to go. That's a quote. President Assad of Syria, who has nothing to do with the United States, no threat to the United States. Is that hate speech? Is it hate speech that Gaddafi has to go, Muammar Gaddafi, the former head of Libya, the richest country in Africa, that thanks to Obama and NATO, they murdered and destroyed the country? Isn't that hate speech?
Yes, it is. Well, another thing the government hates is the government loves hatred. It loves to focus our hatred. Hate Saddam Hussein, hate the Soviet Union, hate Iran, hate COVID, hate Putin. The government thrives on hatred because it can focus people's energies and attentions. It can induce compliance among the electorate, and it can induce money out of the electorate. It's almost like a soft form of war when the government can focus our hatred on somebody or something.
Wow, you really nail it. And again, the stupidity, like you said, I mean, it doesn't matter to the killer what the gun laws are. He will find a way to attempt to kill. Now, I have to correct you here. You're being sexist. You said he will find a way to attempt to kill. You have to say they. You're being. We may get taken off YouTube for you saying he. But
just as an aside, 3 8-year-old boys in Wisconsin are being prosecuted by the Board of Education of the state, not the local board, for refusing to use they with respect to a classmate who is a girl but prefers to be called they. And they're actually prosecuting 3 8-year-olds for either refusing or mistakenly saying she or her rather than they. The world is just insane.
It is. This is insanity. If we were to make up a horror movie, and that was one of the clips in the horror movie, it would be perfect. Just like when you think about when they launched the COVID war, what was the first thing that people did? They ran out and bought toilet paper. Right? I mean, I'm not making this up. And they fought each other, fighting over who's going to get the toilet paper. And, they've been using toilet paper since the, way back before the human, it's been going on for centuries. Scott toilet paper has been selling, during the, BC. I mean, did you ever hear of water? I mean, no, only toilet paper. Again, the whole thing is going down crazy. And you're pointing it out in bits and pieces, because the reality is, and we talked about this last week, when you were a judge and you had to prosecute people, you had to send them to jail for smoking a joint. Right?
Yes, it's
All
terrible.
right, now.
And when I didn't, I was reversed by the appellate courts.
All right. There you go. So now, anybody that, including myself, that wanted to get pot when it was legal could get it anytime, anywhere, any place.